You know, there are some who would argue that it's not the smartest long-term career strategy to aggressively antagonize and purposefully make an enemy out of one of the wealthiest and most powerful corporations in the world. And it's even more reckless, you might say, when this corporation happens to control 90% of the book sales in the country and you make part of your living by selling books. And you might be right about all of that, but all I can say is that still it's totally worth it. There have been a number of big developments since we talked yesterday about the leaked videos over at Amazon of an Amazon meeting where the employees complained and whined and at one point actually cried over my children's book. As much as I'd love to play those clips again, I'm not going to do that, but you can always go and watch them if you want. And they're crying about my children's book, Johnny the Walrus, of course, which is available for sale over at Amazon. You go to johnnythewalrus.com. They call the book triggering, traumatic, problematic, harmful. They were also incensed that the book was originally categorized as an LGBT children's book, and even more incensed that I was, as they claimed, bragging about it publicly and trolling them, they claimed. Now, I personally take great exception to any accusation that I have bragged or trolled. That is simply not the kind of thing that I would do. Does that sound like me? Come on. But that's how they interpreted it, and they were very upset. Now, after the show yesterday, some more developments. Amazon sent an email to our publishing division, DW Books, and they informed us that our ads for Johnny the Walrus have been banned from the platform. They said that they were conducting a quote-unquote periodic review, which just so happens to coincide directly with these embarrassing videos coming out and me making fun of them for it. So just like at the same time, coincidentally, there's this totally random and periodic review that they conducted, and they discovered that, we actually can't run ads for the book anymore because it's not appropriate. The ads are inappropriate. Here's what the email actually says. This is what it says exactly. Your ad is not appropriate for all audiences. I mean, in spite of the fact that it's literally a board book for preschoolers. But anyway, to ensure a good customer experience, we reserve the right to restrict ads that contain elements that may not be appropriate for all audiences. This may include erotica, content on sexual preferences such as BDSM, incestuous relationships, sexual contact with persons under the age of 18, self-help content such as dating, get-rich-quick, or weight-loss books, or content that promotes, endorses, or incites potentially dangerous or harmful activity. I have to say, credit where it's due. I do appreciate how they have put self-help books on the same tier as BDSM and incest. Self-help books are just as disgraceful and gross as that, they're saying. And I don't disagree necessarily. But which category does Johnny the Walrus fall into? Like, what do you think Johnny the Walrus is, if that's how you're interpreting it? And whatever Amazon thinks, I can assure any potential buyer of this book, there is no BDSM in Johnny the Walrus. There is no incest. There is no sexual content of any kind at all, actually. It also doesn't promote dangerous activities. It promotes the opposite. So what is it? Is it a self-help book? Is that what they're saying? Is it self-help for walruses? Is that the claim? I don't know. The answer, of course, is that the book is none of these things, and they know that it's none of these things. The book and the ad are 100% appropriate for all ages, even by the standards of Amazon's own policies. They're removing it out of revenge. It's an act of revenge, quite explicitly and obviously. And if it wasn't already explicit enough, they also declassified the book from the children's category. So it's no longer listed on Amazon as a children's book. Amazon has put it into the political commentary section of the site. Now, ironically, them placing it in the political commentary section is itself political commentary on their part. It's editorialization about the book. They don't like the book. They don't personally think people should read it to their kids, so they're not going to list it as a children's book, even though it unequivocally is just that. Like, this is not what booksellers are supposed to do. If you're going to carry the book and it's a children's book, then any more than if someone wrote a sci-fi book and you didn't personally think it was great sci-fi, so you're like, I'm not going to put it in that section. I'm going to put it in this section over here. But you might not like it, but that is, without a doubt, the genre of the book. In fact, my book is significantly more age appropriate than many other children's books on the sites, which are allowed to be advertised as well. But Amazon wasn't done. Next, and again, this all happened yesterday. Next, Amazon turned its sights on my other book, What is a Woman, which will be released in June and is also available for sale on Amazon. You go to whatisawoman.com. They conducted another conveniently timed periodic review. So these are 2 periodic reviews that they happened to conduct yesterday while all this was happening. And they sent another email to DW Books announcing that our ad campaign for that book has been banned as well. Their reasoning was slightly more specific. They say, your ad contains content that appears to infer or claim to diagnose, treat, reverse, or question gender identity or sexual orientation. Now, of course, they haven't read the book, so they couldn't possibly know if it contains those kinds of things. All the book cover does is ask a question, what is a woman? They appear to be admitting, I guess, that the simple question, what is a woman, that question itself may have the effect of reversing gender identity. Like just asking the question, what is a woman, the question itself invalidates gender identity, which appears to be what they're saying. And in fact, they're right about that, if that is what they're saying. But what does that say about gender identity in that case? As for the content of the actual book, it actually contains mostly my conversations with other people, including several supposed experts, quote unquote, on that side of the conversation. I mean, it's a book with interviews with gender-affirming therapists and gender-affirming pediatricians and gender-affirming surgeons, to use their euphemisms for all those things. But, the difference is that I don't blindly accept everything these experts say. I ask them questions, skeptical questions, as questions, questions are supposed to be skeptical by their nature, and apparently that's not allowed. Now, we're not taking any of this lying down, though. Amazon didn't like how Johnny the Walrus was originally classified on their site, so we decided, if you didn't like that, then you're really not going to like this, Amazon. We decided to classify my What is a Woman book as a biology text. After all, Ketanji Brown Jackson said that, only a biologist is qualified to speak about this subject. It's a biological subject. And so it made sense that our book it's therefore a biology book. It's a biology textbook. And so that's how we listed it. And right now, as you can see, What is a Woman is the best-selling biology book on Amazon as it currently stands. I'm sure the employees absolutely love that. And they can take it out of that category, which I'm sure they're going to do. But it will forever and always have the distinction as a best-selling biology book. We got it in there. We got the screenshot. There it is. And this means that for the rest of my life, and you know that I'll make good on this, this is a credential that I'm going to bring with me. I can now start any argument I have with someone. Anytime I have to make a point, I can say, well, as the best-selling author of as the author of a best-selling biology book, ... Meanwhile, Johnny the Walrus itself, in spite of the efforts to suppress it by Amazon, became and is still the #1 book overall across the entire platform. It is #1 on the bestseller list overall. And given that, as mentioned, Amazon controls nearly all of the book sales in America, we can say, without a doubt, that Johnny the Walrus is right now the best-selling book, period, in the entire country. Out of all the books being sold, out of the thousands of books, it is #1. And we achieved this even though no brick-and-mortar stores would go anywhere near this book, and even though Amazon doesn't want it and is doing everything it can to censor it and suppress it, it is still the #1 book in America. Now, this is all extremely funny, and I tend to focus a lot on the humor of it because that's the most fun thing to talk about. But we would be missing, I think, a big part of the point if we concentrated solely on the humor of it. The fact is that the #1 book in the country is a preschool board book satirizing left-wing gender ideology. Now, that would have been unthinkable up until, well, right now, when it actually happened. And I think this is just another line of evidence that the cultural tide is beginning to turn. That's not to say that the battle is won by any means. As I am constantly reminding everyone and myself, if there's going to be a victory in this war, that victory will be generations down the line. You and I will live and die in a culture that is fundamentally hostile to us. That's the reality. So you might as well strap in and learn to enjoy the fight. That's the advice I give everyone when they talk, well, how are we going to win? What are we? Just learn to enjoy fighting, because that's all you're going to have. That's it. You're not living in peacetime, and you never will be living in those times. Maybe your grandchildren will, though, if you fight hard enough. And that's enough for me. I can take solace in that. And though victory is far down the line, that doesn't mean that we're not able to make progress towards that end, which I think we are right now. Johnny the Walrus is, even I will admit, a very, very small salvo in the war, but even so, a win is a win. Nothing wrong with enjoying them when they come. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.